I am not a sports ball gamer, so I don't interact with that entire segment of EA games. As for everything else, though, well, they're not exactly publishing the highest of quality right now, is the nicest way to put it. With the exception of some of the smaller studios like Hazelight and things like that, it wouldn't be unfair to say that most gamers have a relatively negative opinion on EA as they stand today. So if you can't win the gamers over, why not win over the open source boomers who grew up playing Command & Conquer? Now, this happened a few days back, and you may have seen some reporting on it from mainstream outlets, but in my opinion, a lot of very important caveats were left out. So the games in question are Command & Conquer Renegade, Generals and Zero Hour, Tiberian Dawn, and Red Alert. All of these released under a GNU General Public License, specifically the GPL v3. Let's go to the license on this one. Same license. This one, same license. This one, same license. However, before you go to FlatHub and try to package them, or you make an app image, or try to put them on a distro and things like that, keep in mind the GPL v3 allows for additional terms, and in this case, they do make use of them, those being right here, additional terms per GNU GPL section 7. No trademark or publicity rights are granted. This license does not give you any right, title, or interest in Command & Conquer or any other Electronic Arts trademark. You may not distribute any modification of this program using any Electronic Arts trademark or claim any affiliation or association with Electronic Arts Inc., or its affiliates or their employees. So you can go and fork the project. This is GPL v3, but any fork you do cannot be called Command & Conquer. It has to have a different name. It can't be related to EA. It needs to be its own different thing, and that's totally fair. This is nothing out of the ordinary. Any propagation or conveyance of this program must include this copyright notice and these terms. So if there is the distribution of it, these terms must be included. If you convey this program or any modifications of it and assume contractual liability for the program to recipients of it, you agree to indemnify Electronic Arts for any liability that those contractual assumptions impose on Electronic Arts. Basically, if you distribute the application, EA is not responsible for anything that is done with it. And you may not misrepresent the origins of this program. Modified versions of the program must be marked as such and not identified as the original program. So if you ship a modified version, you fork the application, you have to say, this is a fork of Command & Conquer, in this case Renegade, this is not the original application. Again, totally fair. The problem is, in all of the mainstream reporting, I have not seen a single mention of the terms of the license, which, you know, from The Verge or Polygon or things like that, frankly, doesn't surprise me because I can't imagine they even know what a software license is. Now, these are the caveats with the license. There are some additional caveats to keep in mind as well. That being what has been and what has not been open sourced. This is not the first time that a proprietary game has been made open source sometime after its release, but most of them share the exact same issue. The code is put under a license like the GPL v3, the MIT license, things like that, and only the code. So every single one of these has this term right here. To use the compiled binaries, you must own the game. The Command & Conquer Ultimate Collection is available for purchase on EA App or Steam. Now, I'm sure there are other means you can acquire the assets for the game. Some of the games were released as freeware back in 2008, but I'm sure there are other means as well. So, the assets for the game, those are not included in the repo. It is specifically only the code. Another caveat is actually compiling the game, building the game binaries, because at the newest, we're dealing with repos that have code 22 years old. So over that time, and some of them are a little bit older, over that time, things are going to change, compilers going to update, things are going to be removed and deprecated, and you might run into some issues that make it a bit harder to deal with than otherwise would be expected. Both Renegade and General Zero Hour, these have build instructions here, and you can go and do so. There's no issue there whatsoever. As for Tiberian Dawn and Red Alert, they specifically say the current state of the source code does not fully compile and will require some effort to restore it. If you wish to restore the original build environment, the following tools are required: Whatcom C++ version 10.6 for C and C++ source files, and Borland Turbo Assembler TASM v 4.0 for the assembly files. Over time, I'm sure there's going to be instructions put together, even if not in this repo, by third parties outside of that, with everything just working as is. But I can understand why something this old, they're just not really certain how to get it to build on a modern system. And in the case of Tiberian Dawn, there is this additional bit. It does not contain the core engine libraries. You can find these in the Red Alert code repository. So the Red Alert repo, in many ways, is a dependency for Tiberian Dawn. You can't really do one without the other, at least right now. But hey, you at least have most of the source code here. There are people that go through entire decompilation efforts and manage to make a game work there. So if people can work that out, I'm sure they can work this out as well. So TLDR, there are some distribution limitations around the license and using the Command & Conquer name or EA's name. There are some build issues, and also you don't have the game assets, but those are easy enough to acquire. The games, even if they're not on sale, are like $10 each, and usually they go on sale pretty often. You can probably get them all for $10, frankly. Along with these other ones, they also provide a modding support repo. Now, it's not like these games didn't have modding support already. Obviously they did. They've been out for a very long time, and if you played them, you would know they have modding support, but it never hurts to have additional files directly from the game developers to make things just a little bit easier. Also, this is for more games than just those being open sourced. So we have Generals, Kane's Wrath, Red Alert 3, Renegade, Tiberian Twilight, Tiberian Wars, Uprising, and Zero Hour. This is, from the way that I understand it, all of the games available on the Sage engine. Now, as I mentioned before, this is not the first time that a company has open sourced a proprietary game. It's actually not the first time that EA has done it, and it's not actually the first time they've done it with Command & Conquer. So back in 2020, and for some reason they only archived it this year, I don't know why, but back in 2020, they released the source code for Command & Conquer Remastered Collection. This is Red Alert and Tiberian Dawn, so now you have the original version and the remastered version, both open sourced. And this, from what I can tell, was released under pretty much the exact same license. Again, it is a GPL v3 license. If we go down to the bottom here, there are these same additional terms. So you can't use the name Command & Conquer, the EA trademark. You must make sure that this is clearly a modified version if you distribute it. Things like that. Again, completely normal terms. And also, whilst this one is buildable, it does still have the requirement of owning the game. This time not the Ultimate Collection, but the Remastered Collection. Now, I want to be very clear that this didn't just happen because EA was like, we're gonna be nice today. Like, the executives woke up and like, we're gonna do a good deed. We're gonna be friendly to open source and friendly to gamers. No. This happened because there is a very strong community around Command & Conquer, and there are people who actually work alongside EA to make this happen. A key figure in this is known as Luke CC Hyper Feenan, and in the announcement there is this big post here about how amazing this is and how this was made to happen, how long he's been involved in Command & Conquer, and if you want to know, like, basically, you know, the ins and outs of what went on here, this is a really good place to start, and it basically shows that you can make these things happen. Yes, it's going to be a very long process, and no, it's not going to happen for every single game, but when you have a game that's, you know, 20, 25 years old, and it's an IP the company just isn't really using anymore, things like this can be done. It's just difficult. And as I said earlier, EA is not the only company that has done this. It's just, there's not many examples of it being done. But the most notable example is id Software, where we have things like Doom, Quake 3 Arena, Quake, Doom 3, Quake 2. You know, there are so many games built off of this code. There are so many Doom mods out there. There are so many amazing games built off of Quake 3 Arena. And honestly, I just wish that more companies did this, because these do share a lot of the same caveats that exist with Command & Conquer. It has gotten a lot easier to build these games because, you know, a lot of people really care about them, but those same caveats regarding assets. Again, with those ones, though, it's very easy to get your hands on assets through various means out there. But just for good PR, I just wish more companies did this, because yes, it's difficult, and yes, it's time-consuming, because oftentimes the code bases were not exactly well managed. Some of them might be using source control, but oftentimes they were in source control that wasn't Git. Sometimes parts of the code base are missing because, you know, people leave, data is not properly stored, things get deleted, and it's kind of a mess. But when it can be put together, you know, there's going to be fans of these older games like, hey, that's just like goodwill, and maybe it gets them to buy a new game you make, right? Like this, let me just think of it from the corporate perspective. You release an older title that gets people interested in your company again, gives them some, you know, good vibes with you, and they decide, okay, maybe I'm going to support this company going forward, right? It's not going to happen. Most games are going to stay completely proprietary, but you know, if it's like 25, 30 years old, what are you doing with it? Like, basically nothing. Just put it out there. But what do you think? Are you a fan of Command & Conquer? Did you just forget that it existed until you found out it was open sourced? And now that it's open sourced, are you going to go do anything fun with it, mess around with it? I would love to know. So if you like the video, go like the video. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe to LiberaPay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and I have actually never played this series. Maybe I should do that.